Alright guys, this is the tier list for PvP in 6.2 so far. I feel like balancing is very good. I feel like all jobs have their ups and downs, except Blue Mage. Blue Mage can't play PvP, so that's out of order, of course. But there are certain jobs that are better and some that are a bit more difficult to start with. I think that's the best we can do and say they are a bit more difficult than others. The first is my S rank choice for a DPS job when you really want to kill people. Dragoon sets up kills, makes kills very quickly. You can finish people off very quickly with the spells with your range attack, the Wyvern's Thrust or Wormwind Thrust, however it's called in PvP. That which you throw, which deals tons of damage. Then you can jump right into the enemy and deal the final blow. And that's, I think no other job can do that at this level and that spontaneous level. So that's why Dragoon is the best killer job in my opinion. Hasn't got that much utility, but is a real killer in so many aspects. So definitely a top choice here. Ninja, on the other hand, is a bit more technical in my opinion. It can deal the same amount of damage, it can do the same kills. The limit break is amazing, it feels so amazing to kill people with that. Just 50% life, bam, they are dead. It's amazing to do that. And stealth is nice, it really feels good. But they nerfed the defensive aspect a bit, so I would place it a bit below a Dragoon because as Dragoon you can really flexibly join or exit combat. That's my thing here. That's the biggest difference between these two in my opinion. Ninja had that, they nerfed that, and I think as long as you play Ninja on the same level as the Dragoon, it performs identical. Just Dragoon is a bit more straightforward in my opinion. Samurai is kind of the same. The limit break is still very powerful, and I feel like a good Samurai can outperform all the other melee jobs here. But it's also a bit more technical because of the long weaves you have to do. It requires certain timing that you're able to deal damage with the Samurai. So I highly recommend to really go in with a Samurai, not play very casually, because then you will be disappointed because of how much the Samurai is insufficient in just blowing damage into your enemy's face. You really have to play very carefully, keen, and with technical precision. Reaper, so far, I still think they are subpar when it comes to the comparison to the other melee jobs. You don't have this oomph damage limit break that the Dragoon has with the that's literally able to kill a whole team in a blink of an eye. Has very good mitigation, but on top of that, it basically lacks the oomph damage. Just a bit subpar to the other melees because of lacking the, one of either aspects, being as defensive as a monk or samurai and still not being anywhere close to a ninja or Dragoon, especially on the Dragoon. So it lacks, in my opinion. I think Bard is not one that you can see to be the game changer, even though the limit break can utilize that in a well party setup. But the same thing with Dancer. Dancer and Bard for me are those jobs that are really good if we would have a matchup system, rank up system, where you can queue up with other parties, make party compositions with other players, and make party compositions that work together very well. That would be definitely a scenario where these would shine. They would really shine. You could argue that Dancer has been buffed significantly, but I think they are still a bit subpar. I wasn't being killed by a Bard or Dancer that I felt like, wow, what the heck happened? They just destroyed me. And that's basically what measures for a good damage output or a good technical assist or technical defeat, where people just destroyed me and you didn't know what to expect or didn't know what happened, actually. Machinist is a bit better, which is actually a good thing to have because we know that Machinist is a bit lacking right now in PvE, so definitely a good thing for Machinist to be here. Like I said, if you can utilize the potential, it feels very, very on par with Samurai Ninja, very technical, very precise kills, very good with your movement. You have to place your tower properly, and that's all. But when that all comes together and you time your limit break correctly to kill somebody that seems to not die at all, that's where you pull the game. That's where you really make the difference. And that's what the Machinist can offer here. Black Mage, oh my god. Black Mage, I felt like the last games I played, last 10 games where I fought off a Black Mage, the Black Mage was always the target that I needed to kill as a Dragoon warrior, whatever, because when I'm not doing that, he takes full control of the game. They crowd control you to death. The freeze is insanely difficult and insanely dangerous. So if they freeze you and you are just in the middle of battle on the enemy side or inside a bulk of enemies, you're going to die instantly. So Black Mage is really powerful. When utilized correctly here, it's, I think, one of the strongest DPS out there. Summoner, in my opinion, is A tier. I just played it recently, and I think the damage output is amazing. It's basically like a Dragoon, but the kill potential is a bit problematic because every time you jump into battle, your finishes are not as reliable as those of the Dragoon, in my opinion. They are very powerful, especially with Festa and the charged Cyclone attacks. They are very powerful, and especially you can utilize your slow attacks very nicely at the start of the matchup, and you can use Bahamut. But I think Bahamut is that skill that lacks a bit, because I would love to see Bahamut doing instants afterwards that are a bit less powerful, but they would be instants, because I feel like sometimes you're using Bahamut just for the blast and then the Death Flare afterwards, but you're not utilizing the cast, because you most of the times run into situations where you're not able to cast at that point. So that's, I think, the only thing holding it back a bit compared to these two here, for example. And of course, Red Mage, they have been nerfing Red Mage, but when you use this in a good party setup or just randomly silencing or binding targets, whenever they are in danger, you can set the kill every time. And then the damage potential is crazy. You have so much support potential. You can play these silences and binds defensively and save your team by that. This is still just so powerful. I think they have been nerfed to a point where it's fair still. So that's the difference compared to the last time we did a tier list here. Red Mage now feels fair compared to the competition. That's at least what I'm feeling, because you're getting destroyed very quickly. Your damage output is not as high as before, and the 1 second reduce on the silence, for example, does make a difference. Even though it doesn't sound like one, it does make a difference, especially when it getting chaotic. Casting Astral Impulse does feel a little weird. A lot of power level players play Phoenix just for the instant cast. Yeah, okay, you're right. If you're taking the Summoner and you play Phoenix more, the instant cast is actually a bit better. Sometimes you want to use Bahamut to set the kill or cause devastation over a whole party, but you're right. Actually, Phoenix might be the better option. It's still a bit below these, in my opinion. These are all playable here. All. I think D is the only where I would see some difficulties, but I guess we don't have to play someone there. Except Blue Mage, maybe. Alright. Paladins, they have been buffed. Paladins have been buffed. They are really, really powerful. I think they are viable choices when it comes to preserving your team, keeping your party alive, blocking the enemy advance, stacking yourself against a crystal that they can't push you further. Nobody else does a phenomenal job in the way that the Paladin does. And especially when you have your limit break ready, you're invulnerable, you can't be killed. And that's where the Paladin literally shines. When you are in danger or you want to set the advance for your crystal push-up or push against, that's when you want to have a Paladin in your team and you can really block the enemy team. That's exactly. The Paladin is the only tank that feels like a tank. That's exactly the thing here because of how much damage the other tanks deal. Warrior is kinda a powerhouse, and is, in my opinion, the stun from Primal Rend is just broken. Still, that's the only thing. When they remove that or make that to a heroic leap alternative, like for those of you that played World of Warcraft, the warrior has heroic leap. That means it's an AoE. It's an AoE. You have to target the area somewhere, and that would remove a lot of precision and would make it much more unstable to use that frequently and use that accurately. So I would love to see that, even though it might be a carbon copy of heroic leap, then give this an area of effect so that you can miss this. That's definitely something I would love to see here. There's just too much. When you have the limit break ready and you know how to deal with the, use your self-healing stuff correctly, and you can really go from 0 to 100% life with one swing, then keep your potions up and you are literally immortal as well, like the Paladin is. But also you're dealing damage in insane numbers. So they have to reduce that in some way at least. Maybe the damage, maybe the jump that always stuns the targets, and with such a low cooldown, maybe just make it a 30-second cooldown, for example. That would also do the trick, in my opinion. And then it would be here, and it would be fine. I think A is the fine tier. I can't say about the Gunbreaker. The Gunbreaker is the only one that I haven't seen and that never came to me and I was frightened of it. Or I was put in dangerous situations by a Gunbreaker. That's the only thing I have, and only problem I have with it. That's why my feeling would put it here, because a Dark Knight just recently in some matches really did the job of this one and this one combined, a bit slightly less powerful, doing both of these worlds and combining this a bit. Being very reliable, being very heavy in mitigation, but still dealing a solid amount of damage. That might not be able to kill me because I could just one-on-one the Dark Knight with my Summoner, for example, and didn't fear to be dying, which is always the case on the Warrior. Warrior can easily kill you in duels. Duels on the Warrior, you don't want to do that. Gunbreaker doesn't have much CC. I think they have introduced something. Gunbreaker feels like Reaper, more bulky melee tank, but doesn't even have the AoE fear of Reaper. Yeah, okay, that is actually a good explanation. No control, bulky, but it kinda misses the points and traits of all the other jobs. Alright, okay, this is something that was to be expected. I think White Mage still is the best healer. This AoE, stun, damage, destroyer of worlds, limit break, just killed us in the last match. The White Mage stunned the whole team and the rest of the enemy team could just kill us. And that's still a game-changing skill. White Mage is so reliable, has Afflatus Misery that deals tons of damage, has shields, has good healing or solid healing at least, and transform this Hex spell. Let's be honest, this is overpowered because you can't do anything. You can't even use your Purify. That's really crazy. That's an advantage that no other job has. When Purify would break the Hex of the White Mage, we could really probably put it here. But as long as you can't do anything against this transformation, it's just ridiculous. It's in another world. The Jump Cure 3 is such a good class. Yeah, that's also something. You can just literally deal damage until you see someone dying in your party, then you jump in, do the big heal, give a shield, and go back. Or maybe you have the LB ready and then finish off the enemy team. It's crazy how powerful the White Mage is. Still, the utility is beyond the other levels of even a Warrior, in my opinion. The Hex is just ridiculous. Really, that's my problem here. Okay, next up, Scholar. Scholar is a very consistent healer. Really feels like lacking some utility, lacking the power and oomph of the protection stuff, and also not dealing any form of relevant damage. I think that's the point here. Relevant damage, but I think it's perfectly fitting spot here. Scholar with communication, like queued up or matched up teams, it would perform very nicely as the Bard and Dancer would. So that's where you can put the Scholar here, and that it would really make sense. Unlike that, we have the Astrologian that feels like the best defensive healer out there. The limit break is just insane. With the limit break, you can turn the tides. So yeah, Astrologian, in my opinion, is the perfect choice if you really want to play the defensive healer in general. That's where the Astrologian shines. And I think that's the only true healer, so to say. Because on the other hand, we have the Sage that is exactly the opposite. Sage feels like a ranged caster. Sage, which doesn't need to cast much, but Sage is really that healer that you want to play if a Summoner or a Black Mage or a Red Mage don't feel caster-like enough for you. Then just go for Sage. Sage is basically that. Sage is Machinist, but with even more firepower sometimes. I feel like that's... The damage might not be so high on the kill potential and might not be so much on relevant damage, but it's solid damage. It's damage that constantly you're throwing at your enemy and they will know that you're dealing damage. Yeah, big funny laser. If you like lasers, go for the Sage. That's perfect. The Monk. Monk is one of the most technical jobs out there, but they have buffed it. They have buffed it again. And then I felt like every time you face a Monk, the only powerhouse that can stop a Monk in a duel is the Warrior. But even then, the Monk can set kills like no other with this stun. This stun can destroy you. Then you also have the ability that Guard is ignored. Basically, Monk is like a virus that goes into your biorhythm and kills you very slowly, but it will at some point kill you. And that's Monk. Monk is very, very powerful. And if played correctly and played in a good team setup, it's amazing. It's amazing. It's definitely on the same level, at least, as a Dragoon. And I would say it's a bit better than even a Ninja or Samurai. Yeah, very, very high skill ceiling. But if you can manage to accomplish a very good kill setup with a Monk, nothing's gonna stop you. Really. Monk is what Reaper and Gunbreaker want to be, the tanking, unkillable melee that has so much CC. Oh yeah, it's super tanky. It's super tanky as well. You can't kill a Monk if you're not having your full toolkit available, and the Monk doesn't. Or if you're a warrior with Limit Break ready, maybe. Hopefully, you're agreeing with at least certain parts of it. Otherwise, feel free to disagree, like always. This is just my opinion. All of them can be played, especially all of these here. And Gunbreaker, I think, can still be played. But I think Gunbreaker is the only job I would maybe recommend you to try out one of these other tanks if you want to play a tank. They might actually be more fun to play as well. But yeah, if you're a Gunbreaker main in PvP, I wish you the best luck. I wish you the best games. Destroy them. Just destroy them. And yeah, feel free to disagree and tell me what you think your tier list would describe better, or what you would place in which spot there. Thank you for watching, and until next time, have a wonderful day and keep loving Final Fantasy.